finds evidence of criminality, he should not charge Donald Trump anyway?
What I'm saying is, when you're going after somebody on the other side of the political spectrum, if you're stretching statutes to try to criminalize maybe political disagreements, that is wrong. Now, look, this is all speculation, but I think we've gone down the road in this country of trying to criminalize differences in politics rather than saying, okay, you don't like somebody, then defeat them in the election. I can tell you with the Bragg one, that was stretching criminal law. The evidence of criminality was very weak, and even if that existed, other people would not have been charged under those circumstances. That's the problem.
Ron DeSantis does give, when you actually listen to the substance of most of the stuff he says, and this was true as governor and it's true now, it's not bad. It's not bad stuff, but he's just so boring to listen to, right? And in a way, I would argue, I mean, we're highly political people. We get it. I know what he's saying. But in a way, I feel like kind of the almost manner in which he speaks is above a lot of your less political people, right? You ever listen to him speak? It sounds like he's talking at a Washington, D.C. gala for, you know, a policy debate or something like that. You know, he's speaking at one of these nonprofit fundraisers or something. You know, it's that very think tanky. And in a way, it's true because his messaging has been refined by the DC think tanks. And I feel like that's what I hear in a lot of his answers. And even if what he's saying on substance is not bad necessarily, most of the time, right? People always talk, oh, electability, relatability, all this stuff. How is that going to relate, especially in a general election, to a lot of normal people out there, right? You know, there's just something to be said about that. I haven't really ever seen the nerd with all the ideas win a lot of elections. You know, it's more so the guy who can communicate ideas well to regular people, which is true. And you DeSantis people, you might say, oh, Vince, I understand what he's saying. Are you stupid? No, I understand what he's saying too. I'm just saying I sense that in him, right? I sense that in him. It's this very think tank refined speech that DC interns and staffers and people like you and I understand, but there's something about listening to it that is just not very relatable or engaging, in my opinion. That's my take
that
on
we've
it.
had since the Vietnam conflict. Why have great warriors being driven off, such as with the COVID-19 shot mandates? These were people that had been performing admirably. A lot of them had COVID. They had natural immunity. They were told, take this shot or leave. So I think you've had a big problem with morale. You clearly have a problem with recruiting. And at this levels, everybody has acknowledged these recruiting levels are at a crisis. Why is that the case? I think it's because people see the military losing its way, not focusing on the mission and focusing on a lot of these other things, which, man, we see that in other aspects of society as well. People want to join the military, I think, because they think it's something different. And I think some of the civilian leaders in the military are trying to have the military mimic corporate America academia. That's ultimately not going to work.
So I hear you. Recruitment, without question, is a problem. The Army did this survey. I'll give you a copy of it if you want. They haven't released it, but I got my hands on a copy. And it looked at, it surveyed people, I think 16 to 28 barriers to service, and beyond the ones such as don't want to die, don't want to be injured, don't want to be away from my family. The biggest issues were the number 2 issue, women and racial or ethnic minorities are discriminated against in the Army. Wokeness is listed here, but it's only number 9. So that would suggest that wokeness is not as big.
Well, but I think there's an issue about, like, not everyone really knows what wokeness is. I mean, That's
such a... Jake Tapper, are you serious? Well, we did a study here and we asked people why they're not joining the military, and wokeness is number 9. Okay. All right. Whatever, dude. Even the methods of that are so wrong. Let's just poll random people. I wasn't even listening that carefully. Is that what he said? Let's just poll random people and ask them why they don't join the military. That's not going to, okay. I'm not even going to get into this. I'm not going to go nerd mode on why that's a stupid argument, but I think we understand it's a stupid argument, okay? If you guys want me to, I could explain what's wrong with that assessment. Oh, wokeness is number 9. Therefore, you know, that's not the reason military recruitment is down, but whatever.
defined it, but a lot of people who rail against wokeness can't even define it. And so I think it's a sense of, this is not something that's holding true to the core martial values that make the military unique. And I can tell you, the veterans, you don't have to look far and wide. Go to a VFW hall, go to an American Legion. There's huge amount of concern about the direction that the military is going with all this. And here's the thing, things like DEI and all that stuff, it hasn't worked in other aspects of society. It very well may be on the constitutional chopping block in light of the Supreme Court's decision on racial discrimination in higher education. And so it's not a model that I think is going to be successful in the military. And so we're going to do what has been successful in the past, and I think you're going to see better recruiting as a result.
Did you guys hear that? I think Ron DeSantis said most people can't define the word woke, which is probably true, right? I use it sometimes in my YouTube titles just because you guys know what it means. But I like, if I were running for president, I would never use that term. I don't think that term should be used in the public eye en masse. But Ron DeSantis' entire slogan, he kind of just exposed what I've been saying about him. Ron DeSantis' entire slogan is, Florida is where woke goes to die, right? All of his slogans is we're against the woke, we're against the woke. Well, you just said here that most people can't understand what woke means, but your whole campaign, again, that's your slogan. Florida is where woke goes to die. Woke this, woke that. Then he himself is admitting the point I'm trying to raise, which is, be it he is probably a smart guy on it when it comes to policy, be it substantively, I don't have issues with a lot of the things he's running on. This is just totally unrelatable to the normal person, which is just his entire aura, right? So I think that kind of proves a lot. He said it there. You heard him. He said most people can't define woke. Then why are you running on the slogan of woke? Of anti-woke, I should say.
So the Pentagon says that they do try to achieve diversity in recruiting, but not when it comes to promotions. That's all merit-based.
Well, I mean, I think that we have seen standards watered down in different situations. I think that that's probably not accurate. Obviously, they're going to say they're doing a good job. I mean, we get that. That's going to be their thing, but I don't think that that's in tune with reality.
So let's turn to foreign policy, because obviously that goes hand in hand with military policy in many ways. As a congressman in 2015, you strongly backed arming Ukraine after Russia invaded and seized Crimea. As a presidential candidate, you've said that the conflict is not a vital national interest. So as president, what will your policy be? Will you want to stop arming Ukraine? Will you stop financial support for Ukraine?
So first, a vital national interest to me means we would potentially send troops there. And I don't think anybody wants to see troops in Ukraine. And I would believe that in 2015 as well. It's more of a secondary or tertiary interest. So my policy is going to be very simple.
Can I just continue making this point? Vital national security interest. Okay, obviously I know what that means. I'm not an idiot, okay? But what do I keep saying? That's a very think tank approved DC way to say it, right? You see what I'm getting at here? When Biden goes out there and says, blah, 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 dictator, democracy, just a bunch of nonsense, and Ron DeSantis hypothetically on this debate stage says, vital national security interest, a lot of ordinary random Americans out there are just not going to know what the guy's getting at, and even if they do understand, if you have to think, which I'm not saying I do, I'm just saying a lot of people, if you have to think about what he's saying to understand it, you've already lost, right? You've already lost understanding. The other guy has already won, like, intellectually in a way, right? So not intellectually, but rhetorically, I should say. So it's just kind of the point I keep making, pay attention as you listen to the guy.
Our number one threat to our country is from China in terms of foreign threat.
Yeah,
we
leave
also
a like
have
on
a
the
threat
stream. Let's
of being
get to
able to
200
not
likes.
secure our own border. Tens of thousands of people are dying every year because the cartels are running fentanyl. So you got to be strong at home if you want to be strong abroad. We are going to approach the world instead of Europe being the focus like it has been since World War II, and it was understandable why it would be after World War II. NATO, stopping the Soviets, I get it. But now the Asia-Pacific really needs to be to our generation what Europe was to the post-World War II generation. And so what we're doing is how much hard power can we marshal as much as possible to deter China. I think we're in a situation now with how weak we've been that we are going towards maybe having a conflict with China. I think the way to deter that conflict with China is to be strong. So I would have the Europeans do more in Europe. That's more in their backyard. That's more of an interest for them. I would be willing to be helpful to try to bring it to a conclusion there, but I am not going to diminish our stocks and not send to Taiwan. I'm not going to make us less capable to respond to exigencies. And you got to care at least as much about your own border as you do about foreign borders.
So when you talk about trying to bring...
So that's basically the same answer we heard from Donald Trump with Hannity a couple minutes ago. The difference is who just immediately you understood what they were saying, right? Again, I'm not saying you don't understand what DeSantis is saying. None of us are idiots here. You're all smart. You're all geniuses. You know what he's trying to say. But, you know, being concise is a part of effective communication, especially when it comes to winning a lot of stupid people in this country. I mean, let's be real. A lot of people are pretty stupid out there. That's how you got, in order to win elections, you got to win a pretty large share of stupid people. That answer is so jumbled, so wordy, so, like I said, DC think tank approved. And this is why I say, you know, that people talk about the electability of Ron DeSantis and why it's so superior to Trump. I listen to an answer like that. It's nerdy. It's wordy. It does not actually communicate, in my opinion, as effectively as Donald Trump just saying 24 hours are going to have peace. 24 hours. It's horrible what's happening, you know? And that's a problem Ron DeSantis is going to have. And this is why the polls are the way they are. Oh, no, Trump, Vince, that's because of the Trump cult. Okay, maybe fine. But I'm just telling you, this type of answer is not going to fly against Biden either. It's not. Because Biden is a master. He doesn't know words. He doesn't have enough words to use. So he's just, you know, he's going to say, oh, democracy, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of normal people are going to understand that much better than whatever the heck Ron DeSantis just said about vital national security interests. So,
bring an end to the conflict. Would you push Zelensky to make concessions to Russia to seize
he doesn't
land
get anyone
that Russia
hyped. Yeah, true.
seized in its attack?
He's going to get bullied.
So what
yeah.
I would say is what the goal should be a sustainable, enduring peace in Europe, but that one that does not reward aggression. And there's going to be different levels.
Okay, sorry to keep pausing. But what did he say? He said a sustained peace in Europe, but one that does not reward aggression. Okay? Why is that so wordy? You know what I mean? I know what it means. Again, I'm not stupid. But this sounds like something you would write in a policy brief in Washington, D.C. You know? Whereas Trump, what does he say? The war is going to be over in 24 hours. We're going to have it done. I'm going to, you know what I mean? Even that phraseology is so unrelatable.
That you're going to be able to pull.
Sustained
We
peace
will
in Europe,
pull some
one that
levers
does not
against
reward
Russia.
aggression.
We're going to be much more.
Let me say it better. Peace where Russia is not able to continue, not able to advance, grow, whatever. Something like that. You know? But this is Ron DeSantis' whole thing. It's his
because
whole
I think
problem,
that's been Putin's lifeline. I want the Europeans dependent on the United States for that, not him. We're also going to turn the screws on the Iranians. The Iranians have been one of Putin's biggest benefactors, and they've benefited from Biden's approach there. So we'll use the leverage that we have, but the goal is going to be a sustainable peace that does not reward aggression.
What do you say to the argument that Xi Jinping is watching the U.S. response to Ukraine to game out how the U.S. would respond if China invaded Taiwan?
Peace, but does not
President
Biden
has said that U.S. forces would defend Taiwan if China invaded. Would you do the same? Would you order the U.S. military to defend Taiwan?
Well, two things. So first, how does China view this? I mean, it's somewhat speculative. I think what they would like to see in Russia, Ukraine is a multi-year stalemate and quagmire where the West is pouring in $100 billion, another $200 billion of weapons. Our stocks continue to decline. They don't really care about the Russians. Russia will be more dependent on China as a result of that. So I think that's what Xi would like to see ideally. Now, in terms of Taiwan, that is a significant interest of the United States. Taiwan is a strong ally. Taiwan is important for us economically and for a variety of other reasons. Also, a potential Chinese attack on Taiwan successfully would have big reverberations in the Asia Pacific. But our policy is going to be very simple. We're going to deter that from happening. China respects hard power. If you have hard power, if you have strong alliances with the Japanese, I visited there a few months ago. The Koreans and the Japanese are getting along now. They never used to get along because they both see the threat posed by China. So we're going to work together. We're going to be much stronger. We're going to project power, and we're going to deter that from happening.
Let's talk about some issues here in the United States. You've been asked by a number of members of conservative media, and you have yet to give a yes or no answer. You recently signed a 6-week abortion ban in Florida. Yes or no, would you support that as a nationwide?
By the way, I'm not going to keep saying the same thing, but same exact point on that answer. What does it really mean? You know, I listen. Okay, that's what he's saying. And, you know, I'm, again, politically savvy. I get it. This guy cannot speak to normal people. He's not going to be able to, guys. I'm just trying to let you know right now. He's not going to be able to. There is a reason why the gap between him and Trump has separated, right? Because if Ron DeSantis was this great political machine, you think he'd be narrowing the gap. There's a reason it's separating. Because the guy's the nerdy candidate. That's the best way to put it. He's the nerdy candidate. And that's actually for a reason. Look at where his main base of support is. It's on Twitter, right? And what is on Twitter? It's a lot of these like DC political operative types. You know, they staff at this nonprofit or that think tank or this think tank. So it's a bunch of nerds. The surrogates behind Ron DeSantis' campaign are a bunch of nerds. They're a bunch of DNGs, right? Dork nerd geeks. And you can tell, and he is one too. You can tell in that answer, right? Maybe I am too, but I also recognize, right? This is what we need to win the election, right? He's just not relatable. This is robotic. This is boring. This just goes over so many people's heads. That's the real problem. It goes over a lot of people's heads. Again, I get what he's saying. And on substance, I mean, there's been a few things I disagree with, but I'd say 80% or so, I agree with the things he's trying to get at. But I'm just like, dude, how is this going to win an election when this is the way you deliver it? It's just not good.
I think the left views me as a threat because they think I'll beat Biden and actually deliver on all this stuff. And then, of course, people that have their allegiances within the allegiances in the Republican side, you know, have gone after me. But the reality
this is not threatening, Ron. I like you as my governor, but this is not threatening. I've as a Trump guy, I've listened to all of this and I've not felt threatened once, frankly. And if this is all you got, the primary is over. And I would say I'm glad the primary is over, because as hard as that's going to be to win next November, regardless of the candidate, this doesn't stand a chance. I'm sorry, I hate to tell you, it really doesn't, right? And maybe, you know, I'm paying more attention to it now too, right? Because, you know, when you were just governor and everyone just liked the policies, all that stuff, you know, I get, but now that you're under more scrutiny, now that we have to sit down and listen to you and all that stuff, I see it. The guy's nerdy. You know, the guy, this is not relatable. This is not electable. First of all, you're boring. You are more boring than Biden, frankly, because at least Biden is so retarded that it's kind of funny to listen to him, you know, but you're boring and everything you say is just wordy. And yes, like people said earlier in the chat, it feels inauthentic because it's very policy think tank. It's like you memorize the script, right? And that's not going to go over well with people, right? Maybe it'll win the suburban moderates 1% more than Trump, maybe. But in terms of rural America, because you need to turn out the base too, right? That's the big thing. I would say more so with the way the elections work is you need to turn out the base. The way the Democrats go to their base and collect ballots for a whole month, we need to do the same. We need to chase the ballots. And it's going to be very hard to chase the ballots when this guy, especially with, you know, Republican America, is the guy saying, go vote for this guy. Everyone's gonna be like, who the heck is this guy? He sounds like a nerd. I don't care to vote for him, right? It's true. I don't see it still from him. This guy is going to go in and sweep the independents in such massive margins that'll save the day when he inevitably underperforms with the base. I don't see it. I'm just generally speaking not impressed at all, you know? So maybe he does 1 to 2 points better with independents. I could buy maybe that's a possibility because it's not Orange Man. But if you're trading that for such a huge drop off in the base and just energy and turnout in general, because the guy is nerdy and unrelatable and just boring, you know, there's just nothing about him that's particularly visionary or interesting. A lot of normal people can't understand what he's saying. Then that 1 to 2 point gain with independence is pointless, right? So that's the point I'm making here. Hey guys, Vince Dao here. Hope you enjoyed that clip from the Vince Dao Show. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are new to the channel. And be sure to check out the Vince Dao Show live every weeknight here on this channel at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It is a great show. Many are saying this. So leave a like, check out our other clips, and be sure to check out the show. Yeah. God bless.